Hey friends, and welcome. This is Dr. Heather Carden coming to you live from Ask Dr. Heather here in chilly Overland Park. The snow has actually melted away and the trees are turning beautiful colors here. I don't know, in the Midwest we always talk about weather. I was born and raised that way. Somebody said, why do you always talk about weather? Because that's what we do here in the Midwest. So welcome, welcome. If you're brand new to Ask Dr. Heather, drop a 1 down below. I want to make sure I give you a nice warm welcome. And as always, this is absolutely meant to be shared. It's meant to be educational. So today we're going to help you figure out what is the difference. So many people are confused. They're like, am I doing an HCG diet? Am I doing a modified Adkins diet? Am I doing a dirty keto, a clean keto? Is this considered Whole30 if I eat this way? You know, what is the big difference? And if I'm in ketosis, what does it really matter if I am? Do I really need to count this or measure this or weigh this? I think there's so many people are more confused now that people more than ever are working from home. That gives you a lot more access and freedom to get your phone and Google things, do this, pin this, search that out. People are getting super confused, but I do think it's great because people are wanting to get healthier. That's what that tells me. When people are getting more confused about health, it tells me that they're actually wanting to figure out how they can optimize their health, how they can be healthier and do it safely and not just get the quick fix. So I want to congratulate you guys for sending me in those awesome questions, and I'm going to help you define what those are and help you figure out what might be best for you, because we want you to get in where you fit in. That means don't try to do something that's not going to work for you, because what might work for somebody else, what worked for Corinne, might not work for Susan. So let's help you figure out what works best for you, and let's help get those definitions out there. Now that we have hashtags and we have all these new things like TikTok and Clapper that people can make these funny satirical videos, sometimes can be misleading, especially if English isn't your first language. So let's just get right down to it. What is HCG? So HCG is a human corticotropin. It's what is actually produced when the baby's in utero. It is actually done in nature when a mother may be malnutrition, like someone in a third world country. The body actually goes into a state of ketosis, so the baby can actually get the energy from the mother's fat. So maybe the mother, so to help protect the baby, you'll see babies who actually are in a third world country who actually are normal birth weight baby, and maybe the mom is super thin because the body knows how to actually use the mom's stored fat and give that energy to the baby. That's why babies are actually in ketosis at about 20 weeks. So that's a natural thing that occurs in nature. However, the HCG diet got very, very popular with movie stars in the late 70s. Dr. Simeon started this diet back in the 1940s. But for diet definition, it is a very low calorie diet. It's 500 calories a day. It is done very, very particular. There's actually no wavering. It needs to be at a minimum of 21 days, no longer than 43 or 35 pounds. You stop if you hit 35 pounds or 43 days. You cannot vary from it. There's absolutely zero fat. So that means you cannot put lotion on your lips or lotion on your face, lotion on your hands, lotion on your legs. You cannot do any scalp treatments like we talked about last night for dry scalp. Absolutely no fat, no Pam. Don't spray anything like this. Now, this is Dr. Simeon's original diet, not some of the ones that have been modified you can find online. But the HCG diet has about 6 different meats, has some white fish, no salmon, no trout, shellfish is okay, chicken, turkey. You rotate your meats. You have 2 meals a day that are under, again, about 500 calories. So you're having about 800 calories. It does need to be medically supervised. You have a list of vegetables. You have 2 cups of vegetables a day. So at each meal, you have about 3.5 to 4.5 ounces of vegetables. You have to be over about 21% body fat, really about 25% body fat in order to be a candidate. If you're under 25% body fat, then you can do a modified HCG, which means you can do 1,000 calories a day, but you don't do any eggs because of the fat content. You don't do any pink fishes. You don't do anything that's fatty. So again, a very specific list of lean meats. There are no fats at all in your diet. So again, very opposite of the keto diet or the Adkins diet. A very specific list of low glycemic vegetables, and you do get to have some fruits, but it's a very particular list of fruits that you have, and you must rotate them every 4 days. So if you have chicken and broccoli and half an apple one day, then you can't have that again for 4 days. Again, you must do that for 21 days, a very specific amount of water. So it forces your body into ketosis. So again, it's on a natural state of ketosis. It does go down and burn through all your body's glucose and gluconeogenesis and glycemic. So you do burn through all the body's glucose, but again, it's it needs to be medically modified. It's meant to get a lot of weight off really quickly to get you really inspired. It's not meant to be long-term. Again, if patients, you should have your blood pressure really checked each and every single day. You need to have your urine checked each and every single day. You need to have blood work done before you start the HCG diet. You need to have your electrolytes checked after you do the HCG diet, because some people will lose 20 or 30 pounds in 20 or 30 days. Again, never meant to be longer than 43 days. You need to take 8 weeks off. So say you need to lose 200 pounds, say you lose 35 pounds, you need to take 6 weeks off, and then you can do a low carb diet. You can do a keto diet. You could do a clean 30 diet. Then you can cycle back and do another round of HCG. So that's HCG in a nutshell. Then we're going to go next to, well, I guess we should have said the SAD diet. The Standard American Global Diet is just eat anything you want, whenever you want, as often as you want, is what the standard diet is. So if we move next to the Zone diet, which is a 40-30-30, that was actually written by Dr. Barry Sears. That was actually to modify and cut out all processed foods. So that's a very healthy diet. It's just eating 40% carbohydrates, 30% fats, and 30% protein. So that was actually taking the standard American diet, which was very low fat, and actually helping you increase your healthy fats and lower your carbohydrates. So we won't spend much time on that. That's moving actually into the low carb diet. Low carb diet is 40% fat. And again, this is going to vary from resource to resource. 40% protein and then 20% carbohydrates. Will people get into ketosis? Sometimes they can, because if your body's a very fine engine, you'll find that oftentimes, especially if you're doing intermittent fasting, and this is where intermittent fasting and a low carb diet can be very synergistically. So say you're doing an 8-hour eating window and you eat your last meal at 6 o'clock at night, and you're doing a low carb diet, 40-40-20, or maybe you're doing maybe 50% fat, 30% protein, and maybe 10 to 15% carbohydrates, because the carbohydrates can be anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20% depending on your body and how much you burn. So you eat your last meal at 6 p.m. at night, and then you wake up and you go to the gym in the morning and you have an amazing workout, a big HIIT workout, a big cardio workout, and then you don't start eating your next meal again until 10 a.m. the next morning. You could put your body into a state of ketosis. Or you're an endurance runner and you're on a low carb diet, and maybe you're not even intermittent fasting, but mile 3 or 4, you put your body into ketosis. Or if you're a cyclist, mile 10 or 11, you could put your body into ketosis, because you just burn through those very efficiently. So it's very often, with not even knowing it, your body can be this hybrid fuel source where you're on a low carb diet or you're in a zone diet, and your body can automatically go into that state of ketosis. I remember running in the early days before I was even measuring anything, when I knew when I hit that wall where I made that shift happen, and when you felt like the Energizer Bunny. Before that, there was a lot of pain involved trying to get through that. So if you're a distance runner, put that down below. Put like a running person or a cycling person, or even people who are paddleboard. They actually do that, or kayak. Anyone who does any endurance sports know when that shift happens. Now we know people are doing a benefit. They're actually fasting before they start their race, because they're not having to wait to hit that wall and feel terrible the first few minutes of that working out. Now they know they're going to hit. They don't have to wait to hit that wall. They can actually start their first bit of their race, or their first few miles, very, very fine-tuned and running on fat for fuel, which is a much more efficient fuel source. So again, Danny always likes to say hello when we're on doing our live. So that is a low carb diet. Shifting down into what is a modified Adkins or Atkins diet, the way he intended it to be, is just shifting those carbohydrates down, but he actually did a higher protein and a high fat. So high protein, high fat. And just for record, to just remember, a little education, anytime you're using a protein, you're also using insulin. So carbohydrates and proteins, 2 of the 3 macronutrients, we always use insulin to help break those down. So if you're doing too much protein on an Atkins diet or a modified Atkins diet, you're actually going to use insulin, so you're going to have a potential of actually storing fat. I know a lot of people in the 80s and the 90s, even the early 20s, actually 2000 I should say, did lose some significant amount of weight. I recall that in college, just because you're cutting out the carbohydrates. And proteins give you energy for about, or make you feel full for about 90 minutes. So you felt fuller longer than you did on the carbohydrates. And the Atkins also encourage you to actually ditch some of the grains. They also encourage you to not have dairy. or some modified dairy, I should say. They did more of the heavy creams and the butter. They did have you limit some of the artificial sweeteners, which was a great change. They did have you limit some of the fruits and no legumes, where on the Whole30, the same thing, no legumes. Again, when you start talking about that, sorry about the dog, she's just gonna say hello to everybody. So when you start talking about the Adkins, again, it's not, as in the keto diet is high fat, the Atkins diet's high fat, the ketogenic diet's moderate protein, where the Atkins is still high protein, which is still stimulating insulin, and then they're both low fat. But when you start talking about processed foods, ketogenic diet can be processed and non-processed meats, where Dr. Atkins really wanted it to be non-processed meats, but actually it slipped in and started being processed meats. And then we start comparing dairy and dairy. We start talking about the fuller fat dairy and the non-fat dairy. People ask me all the time, well, can I be on a low carb diet or an Atkins diet and get in ketosis? The answer is yes, just like we talked about the person exercising or someone practicing intermittent fasting. And it's going to depend every day. Like, it's cold and rainy today, but yesterday we had snow. So if you would have actually done your regular day-to-day job, but then you had snow, so you had to go out and you had to shovel snow for a couple hours extra. That's an extra amount of energy your body would have gone through, and you were calculating that you only do 1,750 calories a day. Well, you burned another, maybe 500 or 600 calories shoveling the snow. Then you might have gone ahead and got into ketosis because you burned more energy. So organically, your body will make that shift happen from time to time. And when you're trying to decide what lifestyle I need to do, I definitely need to do something, because I hear this all the time. I need to do something. What do I need to do? Where do I need to start? So we're going to do a small series on getting started, getting in where you fit in. So today, kind of your homework is identifying, like, where are you? Are you on the standard American diet where you may have already cut out the soda pop and you've cut out the snacking? And if you're not, then that would be the first place to start. Cut out the sodas, cut out the non-water beverage, whether it's sweet tea or Gatorade or sodas or the vitamin water zeros, those colored things. Cut out that and start drinking half your body's weight in water, and then just stop eating the breads, whether it's even the low carb bread that you're buying at the store or it's low carb tortillas, whatever those things are. Just stop eating the breads and stop eating the pastas. Those two things will go a very, very long way. And don't start substituting stuff yet, because when I try to teach people to go into a low carb or a keto diet, generally I don't say don't start making swaps just yet, because that can get you into a lot of trouble. People are trying to calculate the math, the total versus the net carbs, and oftentimes when people come into my office, their guts are a mess. So we know that when you're trying to do the math, total versus net, that they're not actually digesting foods very well. They're probably not chewing their food very well. They have a lot of stress inside their gut. Their nervous system is over aroused. So that's when we say, let's go back to the whole food theory. We're going to eat lots of vegetables, like 6 to 7 to 8 cups a day. Stop even trying to make the processed food work into the math of things. Just start identifying when you're hungry. And that really can get you pretty far, whether you're doing a low carb, whether you're doing a keto, whether you're doing just a clean Whole30. And a clean Whole30 came about really from the zone work, which was eating when you're hungry, selecting whole real food. And the only difference is that Whole30 does more fruits. None of them do legumes. So quit trying to make beans work in that. I hear it all the time. What about split peas? What about peanuts? Those are legumes. They're legumes. So keep the legumes out. That will actually keep you much healthier, but just identifying what you need to do. So generally I say, take the HCG off the board, unless it's a situation, because generally that's a diet that you should not do twice unless you're, again, you have like 300 pounds to lose or 200 pounds to lose. You get a good 30 pounds off in a short period of time. Then you switch over to a very healthy, balanced diet, which could either be low carb or keto. Then you, again, do another round of HCG, but not if you're yo-yoing, where you lose that 30 pounds and you put it back on. You lose it, you put it back on. Because remember, our fat cells, we have about the same number of fat cells we've had since we were 20 something. So I'm 50 something, so I have the same number of fat cells I've had since then. If you yo-yo, then they just go bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. So that's where that whole cellulite cottage cheese look comes in, because they keep getting bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. And that's where some of these new technologies are having them froze off and trying to freeze them and crumble them and trying to have you get rid of them. Well, the truth is the fat cells will detoxify all the junk within them, and that's how people lose weight and your body detoxifies, but you generally have the same number of fat cells you've had since your 20s. So hopefully you had a lower amount when you were in your 20s. If you had a higher amount, it just means that they were just bigger and fuller, and you may have a harder time as you age trying to get those to shrink back back down. But yo-yoing is not good because you're filling those up. And what happens is it's the next place it's going to go is around the viscera. So the visceral fat cells are the ones around your organs you want to try not to do. So just the story is with the HCG, that needs to be done with a healthcare practitioner. And the same thing is true with the ketogenic diet. I have a lot of people trying to do it by themselves, and they come in and see me like I'm not doing something right, obviously, because my blood pressure's gone up and down, or I have blood sugar issues now I didn't have before. I've actually gained weight trying to do this. So it can be done simply if you start with eating real whole foods, drinking enough water, and again, maybe don't try to go as drastic as keto. We talk about stair-stepping all the time. First, just figure out what your baseline is. Download a very easy app, maybe Carb Manager, maybe it's MyFitnessPal. If you have an app that you love, drop it down below. Dory, what app do you love? Susan, what app are you using? Corinne, what app are you using if you're using one? Because some people have some better apps that they like to use. I'm kind of old school, so I use MyFitnessPal just because I used it for probably a decade now or however long it's been out. And I have all my foods zapped in there already. So, or my recipes are already in there, so I know that they're divided out in there. But if you have an app that you love, put it in there. Carb Manager seems to be kind of odd where it doesn't always put, like somebody put down 4 ounces of cod and it was like 700 calories. I knew that wasn't right. It was like 78 grams of protein. I knew that wasn't right. So if you have an app you love, drop it down below. But again, as you're making that shift happen, identify where you are. So be realistic of what you can and cannot do. You know your personality better than anybody else. I generally say if you were someone who is addicted to something, thank you, Amanda. Amanda uses MyFitnessPal and she's old school like me and she loves it too. So if you were a smoker or if you were addicted to like a soda or a tea or something, would you go cold turkey, which means I'm just stopping tomorrow? Or would you have to stair step it down like, okay, I do 2 packs a day of cigarettes and I have to just go to like 18 the next day and then go to like 16 the next day? Or if you were drinking like 64 ounces of soda, would you have to just go to like 40 ounces for 3 days and then go to like 32 ounces for 3 days and then go to 24 ounces. So kind of identify who you are. And that's where this carb creep or carb flu or keto flu comes in, is people will go from 300, let's say 300 grams of carbohydrates, they'll drop it down to 30 carbohydrates. Well, nobody told your pancreas, nobody told your stomach, nobody told your brain, nobody told all your hormones. There's a lot of hormones involved, like cortisol and ghrelin and hormone and leptin. There's a whole long list of things, and your amylase and your lipase and your hydrochloric acid and your beta cells. Nobody told them that you are not going to eat all that today or tomorrow or next week. And so everybody's kind of not knowing what to do. And they were so used to having all this food dumped in there. Your stomach has been stretched out from having that much quantity of food. So sometimes it's better to actually go at a little slower pace. So if you are doing, again, get MyFitnessPal, let's see what you're realistically eating for 2 or 3 days, and then say, let's go, maybe if you are doing 300 carbs a day, and that's very realistic, that's a couple bagels and a drive-through meal with fries and a soda and a burger, and that's pasta with a breadstick and a glass of wine at night, and that's having, again, a bagel in the morning. That's very realistic to get the 300 carbs that easy, and say, you know what, I probably need to go to like 220 for a few days. I know it sounds like a lot, but it can be very easily done with just a few donuts or a couple bagels, or candy bar. I mean, it's not hard to do if you start looking at what the grams of carbs are. 1/4 a cup of pasta cooked, 1/4 a cup. Nobody eats 1/4 a cup. It's like 47 carbs. So FYI, if you're doing a cup of pasta, you're doing a lot of pasta, a lot of carbs there. So maybe go to 200 for a couple days and let your body kind of acclimate. And remember, carbs are stimulants. So when you take the stimulants out, think of lighter fluid on a campfire. Lighter fluid is a carbohydrate. So if you're putting 300 carbs into your body, whoosh, that's like lighter fluid. I wish I had a fire camp right here. And you're just like pouring lighter fluid on there, gasoline. You take it away, the fire goes out. So the peristalsis of the stomach doesn't know what to do. It's not going through, not going through, not going through. And Susan, I'm going to read your comment here in just a minute. So again, like alcohol is already broken down. Alcohol, think of grapes going in to make wine. How many grapes it took to actually smash down and make a wine, or how much corn is actually to make whiskey or to make moonshine. So the same thing is true when you're talking about carbohydrates. Like you can eat a pear in like 3 bites because it's already kind of fermented and broken down. So stair step down your carbohydrates. I know everyone's super eager to be at that goal weight, you know, within like a month or a wedding or whatever special events coming up, but stair step it down to allow your body to have that grace to actually accommodate with you, and then fill it with other things, fill it with healthy things, journal your journey, already see yourself like, It's okay if I'm not perfect. We did some tapping stuff with Dr. Kristen the other day. Like, I love and accept myself how I am. I love and accept myself at 300 pounds. I love and accept myself at 200 pounds. It's okay if I'm not perfect today. It's okay if I had a bottom of the bag French fry yesterday. Like, you have to love and accept yourself, and then do those stair stepping down until you get there. There's lots of ways to get in ketosis. You can get the flu, which I'm not going to tell you to get the flu, just by normal getting some flu bug by getting sick or having, I shouldn't say the flu with the corona thing going around, that's why I got nervous. But you can get on a treadmill, you can do a controlled fast for a few days. You can do a fat fast, which is doing about 800 calories of straight fat for 3 days. To do a fat fast, that's why the HCG diet gets you in ketosis in about 4 days. It takes all the fat out of your body, out of your diet. Again, not even lotion on your body. Then it forces your body to tap into its stored fat. However, if you're metabolically challenged, sometimes it can take you a good week to get your body actually to tap into that fat. It's kind of an uncomfortable state, and that's again a good situation where I will use exogenous ketones to help people fight that flu bug or that carb bug that they're feeling, to get their body into that state of ketosis. But stair step that down until your body can get there comfortably. Again, that's what I always say, get in where you fit in, and again, you know your body better. Don't play comparison, because comparison is a thief of joy. So I just wanted to jump on here because I had a lot of questions about people asking me, what should my macros be? Could you calculate that for me? I don't know what it should be, because I don't know what your lifestyle, your age, your gender, I don't know what your health history is. I don't know what your goals are. So again, I can't give you all that information. I can share with you about just eating whole foods, eating when you're hungry, pick a protein, pick a couple of above ground greens, put a couple of tablespoons the size of a domino of some healthy fats on there. And if you're trying to lose fat and you're calculating stuff about how much fat to use, remember, always go a little bit under what they say on the fats. Because if you're doing that 70 to 80% fat like calculated on a ketogenic diet or on an Adkins diet, your body's going to use all the digestible fat that you're feeding it. It's never going to tap into that stored fat. So it's not a plethora of nuts. It's not all the heavy whipping cream you can eat all day long. It's not all the cheeses you can have all day long. It's not 30 pieces of bacon. You still have to do things in moderation so your body actually taps into your stored fat and use it. That's why a lot of people do intermittent fasting, or they do an OMAD to make sure their body's, you're just a check and balance. Like, let's make sure you're still doing that thing, liver, that you know that you're going to go grab that fat that I've got stored. Go get that fat. It's like training your body. Go get it. Let's see if you can still use it, because if you're not doing that intermittent fasting and you're not having that rest, that time period where your liver goes and gets that chance to rest and grab that fat, it's going to go back and do what it knows to do, which is just store sugar. So I'm going to take Susan's question here. She's been very patient. She said, difficult because my skinny ass son is a carbaholic. Some people make the Alfredo stuff for me, put it in my face. So Susan, this is what I tell people. These are on my hands. And this happens all the time. I have patients that get diagnosed with very serious medical conditions, and everybody wants to bring them food. The worst thing you can do if someone gets diagnosed with something like cancer or eosinophilic esophagitis or ALS or MS or something very detrimental is set up and start bringing a case of cookies and pies. That's so sweet that they do that. But you have your hand. You don't have to put it in your mouth. You can say thank you, or you can set up I can't remember what that thing is called. You can set up and say, these are the foods I want you to bring, the soups, the salads, and the stir fry. Like, you can set that up. So Susan, I'm sorry that you're put in that situation that, and that is, there's skinny on the, it's called tofu. Thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And this is a real problem that we have. And this is what she's saying her son is. He's a tofu. She said he's a skinny ass. So he's a skinny person. But what's happening is that all of that sugar from the alcohol, and then we also have something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So not only is it coming from carbs, it could be coming from alcohol, but him from carbaholics, where it's cakes and cookies and pies and pastas, is that it's all that is being deposited inside around his organs, which is his liver and his intestines and his heart and his kidneys. So people assume because you're skinny, you can have all the sugar in the world. And we do this to children all the time. That's why children are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in their teenagers or in their late elementary stages. And we used to diagnose those with people who actually had you know, we didn't diagnose type 2 diabetes until people were 60 or 70 years old. So Susan, that makes sense that he has NASH. So that makes sense. So my thing is, Susan, I would just choose not to eat that stuff. So I want to thank you guys for your awesome questions and your awesome participation. Hopefully that clarifies where you need to go. We are going to help you. I always assume that everybody knows what a keto diet is, but I've had a lot of questions like, can you help me get started? So let's all get started together. Let's all start drinking water first. Water, water, water. Cheers to you. We know we need water. We can only go 3 days without water. Keep your questions coming because your questions matter. You definitely get heard. I populate all those questions. The most popular questions we are trying to get answered and answer them in bundles. So thank you again for their questions. Again, don't do the HCG by yourself. Don't go online and order any kits. Please don't order syringes to shoot yourself up with those. Those are not to be done by yourself. If you do a keto diet, please check your blood, please check your urine, because if you don't, you could be under eating, and then if you're not in ketosis within a few days, then you're actually going to start breaking down your lean muscle mass. The same thing with Adkins. If you're doing too much protein, the scale might be moving, and you might say, oh, I look smaller, but if you're not in ketosis, you're breaking down your lean muscle. That's what happened in the 80s with a lot of endurance runners. So make sure that if you're on a ketogenic diet, that you're checking those ketones so you're not, because of something called myostatin, that you're protecting your lean muscle mass. So you guys have an amazing day, and I love and appreciate all your amazing questions, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Again, this is Dr. Heather from Overland Park, Kansas. Say have an amazing day. Again, we'll see you soon. Bye.